And we are live. What's going on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn Live? It's Wednesday. I'd like to welcome you to the first row. And if it is Wednesday, you should know what that means. It's time for the Wednesday word. That's Wednesday word. Jumping straight into it. Tonight's topic is avoiding burnout. As always, I like to say what I mean by my topic. So, what do I mean by the topic of avoiding burnout? So timely this topic is, being that I'm just coming back from a 3-week break from the first row of season 1, going into season 2 for the first row and the content that we produce here on the first row. And what I mean by this topic of avoiding burnout is just that, is how to avoid from being overwhelmed by the toll that life can take on us if we allow it to. Not saying life is always stressful, but in the times in which it is, how to pull back from that and recenter and rebalance yourself so that you can move forward and not be burning the candle on both ends. So with this topic, I have three tools that I like to share with you, 3 tools for the first row that I'd like to share with you in regards to how to avoid burnout. So let's jump straight into it. Tool number 1 when it comes to avoiding burnout is avoid the cascading effect. Oh man, what I mean by this tool is how in life sometimes we'll have situations that come up and we will partially deal with them, but we will not completely deal with them. What's going on, Brother Bruce? And what happens when we partially deal with something? Let's go with digestion. I think digestion is a good comparison to this. When we partially digest our food, that means we're not getting all the nutrients. Our body is not operating in optimal performance, and we end up wasting and sometimes even damaging our internal system because we're not processing the food all the way. So when we look at life and we have this cascading effect where we're not processing issues all the way, what happens is sometimes we're not even learning the full lesson that we're supposed to learn from the issue in and of itself. Other times, what's going on, Brian? Other times we are putting ourselves where, oh, we'll deal with it later. And so we kind of procrastinate. And sometimes it's okay to procrastinate on purpose. But if you procrastinate too long, what you end up, when I say cascading, think about a waterfall. You have these tiers as the waterfall drops down, and eventually it drops into a pond. As you cascade, yeah, that water that's on the first tier is still flowing, and it doesn't stop flowing, even though it's even at the bottom, there's a pond. So you have this event that takes place in your life and you don't resolve it, you don't take care of it. And that event keeps flowing, but then the next event comes up because life doesn't care the number of events that you're dealing with or that you haven't resolved, just for the record. You have this other event. So this event is still flowing, and now you have this other event, and the water or the events continue to pile up. And what happens is eventually we get overwhelmed in that pond at the bottom where everything's flowing into us. And it feels like, man, I can't get my footing. I can't seem to catch a break. I can't seem just to have a moment. I can't seem to achieve that. And that happens because of this cascading effect. And so the reason why tool number 1 is avoiding that cascading effect is a lot of times we're burned out, not because of one event, but we are burned out because of the cumulative or compound result of multiple events that are taking place in our lives. Think about it. If you have financial concerns, your bank account is negative, and then now because your bank account is negative, you can't pay bills, but you haven't resolved the negative bank account issue, and these bills are coming due, and now the bills are so far past due that things are getting ready to be shut off. So now you got a negative bank account and your bills are about to be shut off. And then what happens? Oh, well, they turned the electricity off. So negative bank account, bills are past due. Now things are being shut off. I don't have electricity, and the food that I had in the refrigerator is getting ready to spoil because there's no electricity to the refrigerator. That is what that cascading effect happens. So avoiding that cascading effect means, hey, if I got a negative bank account, the first thing I need to start doing is addressing that bank account so that I can get things back on track. Now, it doesn't mean that you'll be able to handle everything, no, but understand that that is the first tier in the issues that you're facing. And if you truly want to avoid burnout, if you truly want to avoid being overwhelmed, sometimes you have to shut off the faucet at the top so that it can stop flowing so that you can then work on the next topic. Now, it doesn't mean that you're not going to have some consequences, natural consequences that may come from having to focus on one thing at a time. It's no different than being in credit card debt. If you have 10 credit card bills and all of them are maxed out to the limit, well, then you start with the first one. And in my process when I used to have a bunch of credit card debt. I would start with the one with the highest interest rate because that's flowing the most water and interest. And then once that one was taken care of, I'd move to the next one and the next one. And systematically shutting those down kept me from being in financial turmoil. Systematically addressing issues, whether they're life issues, whether they're job issues, whether they're relationship issues, systematically addressing those issues in a manner in which you can stop the flow, even if only temporarily, because let's be honest, sometimes you can handle a relationship issue on tier one and that stops momentarily because you handled that issue, but that doesn't mean that that relationship is never going to have another issue and that faucet may turn back on. My wife and I, we actually have times where our communication is challenged, we'll call it, where it's a struggle for us to communicate. And so we have to sometimes take an intentional break away from that, but in the sense of we're going to take a break of it and break from it and come back to it. We always come back to it. Sometimes I think the most it's been is like maybe 2 days where it's like, okay, let's now talk about this and take care of this issue, because what will end up happening is if we don't take care of this issue, the next issue is going to come and the next issue is going to come and the next issue is going to come. And then eventually you're down here on this issue arguing about this issue, but you're not really arguing about this issue because it's down here on this issue. It just happens to come up, and all those issues end up flowing into divorce because you didn't address the first issue. So those are just the things when it comes to avoiding that cascading effect. And then lastly, I think the best way to articulate the cascading effect is if you've ever had to do your own laundry. Laundry, you can do it every week. If you do it every week, you have like 2, maybe 3 loads, depending on how many clothes you wear. But if you don't do it in 1 week, then the next week, and you do it bi-weekly, we'll say, then instead of having 2 or 3 loads, you now have 4 or 6 loads. If you don't do it bi-weekly and you do it monthly, instead of having 4 or 6 loads, you now have 8 or 12 loads. And the time it takes to do all that laundry can be exhausting. Nobody wants to sit and do 12 loads of laundry, fold 12 loads of laundry, put away 12 loads of laundry all in one day, and may not even be able to do it all in one day because life doesn't stop just because you have to do laundry. Same thing for this cascading effect, avoiding this cascading effect. What it does is it puts us in a space to where we don't have as many demands on our time. I shouldn't say, we may still have the same amount of demands. We don't have as many unnecessary demands on our time. And by not having those unnecessary demands because we've resolved them or taken care of them, it gives us the bandwidth that we need to really interact with these other 2 tools that I'm going to share. So that's tool number 1, avoiding the cascading effect. Tool number 2, when it comes to avoiding burnout, is recharge periodically. Oh man, taking breaks. It is something that is very, very important. Oops, sorry about that. Took it down. Something that's very important for us to do is take breaks. And I took it down again. I don't know what's wrong with me. Bear with me, you guys. I'm sorry. This is the season 2, episode 1. So apparently I'm out of practice for clicking my tools. But recharging periodically is about taking breaks and not taking that break at the end, but taking those breaks periodically. So not in the sense of tool number 1 where we're avoiding the cascading effect, but like it's okay if I'm dealing with this tier of an issue or dealing with this tier of an activity to say, hey, look, I'm starting to be completely overwhelmed in this and I need to take a break. I need to take a moment and to truly take that moment, step back, recharge, and then come back to it. This is where I think the power is that it's okay to recharge. It's okay to take breaks, but you have to come back to it to avoid the cascading effect. That's why I put that as tool number 1. And so what taking these periodic breaks allows us to do is it allows us to be in a space where we are operating at our optimal operation level. So think about if you're working out, right? You're working out, you haven't had anything to eat all day. It's the end of the day and you got to go and do a really hard workout. You're not going to be able to operate at your optimal level with 0 fuel. Your car, it's not going to really go very far. And in fact, as your fuel gauge drops or as your fuel capacity drops, your fuel efficiency drops with that. So in the same aspect, not with the car, obviously we don't take breaks with our cars, but with our bodies and with specifically our minds and our emotions, it is so important to take those moments to recharge and listen to what is going on within yourself. I understand sometimes, especially as a man for myself, sometimes I get into this hero mode and I want to save the day and I want to be the person who flies in and, hey, Billy's here, I got it, don't worry, have no fear. But I also have to learn to listen to myself. And so, like, one of the things for my recharge, like I almost call this intentional recharge, is when I get news that would provoke me or inspire me to want to reach out to somebody, to whether it's expressing condolences, compassion, love, whatever it may be. When I get news that inspires that, I take a moment, I pause, and whatever time of day I get that news, I let the rest of that day complete. And then I come to that space of where I can offer condolences, compassion, love, or whatever I want to offer. And what that has allowed me to do is to stop compiling things onto my own personal day that can really disrupt what you have going on and can actually unintentionally create this cascading effect that I was talking about in tool one. And so that periodically recharging or recharging periodically, what that does is it gives you the ability to have the bandwidth that you need to accomplish the things that you want to accomplish. The reason why I say listen to your body, actually, I think it was 2 weeks ago or so that I was in the urgent care center. And I was in the urgent care center because I had this vertigo thing. I forget what it's called, but it's some type of positional vertigo that I had for like 2 days. But I remember when right before this vertigo came on, I was getting dressed. I was getting ready to go to the gym. I was like, okay, I'm going to go knock this workout. These are the things I want to do. And I bent over. And then when I stood up, it was like the whole planet was spinning, but I was standing still. And so I kind of like sat down for a bit and I was like, maybe I could shake this. And then I was like, okay, I'm not shaking this. I need to find out why I'm so dizzy. But being willing to take that break, because I really wanted to hit my 4th workout for the week. I was on target to hit my goal. I had already did 3 workouts. I only had 1 more to do. I was going to do that 1 workout, and cool, I did my 4 workouts. The road back to 2017, we're on it. Yeah, you got to be able to listen to your body. And recharging periodically is truly about that. It's about listening to your body, listening to your emotional state, listening to your mental state, and giving your body what it needs for that moment so that you can come back. Because when I did get through the vertigo and everything was fine, now I'm back in the gym and I'm running. And actually, when I went back running, I was actually running a further distance than when I left the gym. And I felt really good and really strong in that run. But that's because I gave my body the break it needed. A lot of times what we do is we try to push through it and, oh, I got to be the workhorse. People are relying on me. People are counting on me. And I always say that's awesome that people rely and count on you. But if you're not healthy and you're not here, guess what? They're not going to be able to rely on you. And what they will do is figure out a way without you. So if they can figure out a way without you, if you're not here, it's better for you to be here in a healthy state, recharged, refreshed, ready to go. When you can be there for them, be there for them. But if you're not in that space, if you have other things that you have to do, then you have other things you have to do, and you have to nurture numero uno first. So that's tool number 2 is recharge periodically. Very important tool. Take those breaks as needed, but the key to taking breaks is you got to go back and finish the work, or you're going to create a cascading effect. And then lastly, we got tool number 3 is don't pick up what is not yours. Oh man. When I reflected on this particular topic about the times in which I have been significantly burned out in my life, oftentimes it wasn't the issues that I was facing in my own life that was creating the burnout. Those issues were pretty manageable. Maybe after like 25, those issues were pretty manageable. But burnout after 25, the issue wasn't my issue. It was the issues that I was picking up from others and not setting clear and concise boundaries on what I was going to engage with and what I wasn't. It was like, hey, people are used to Billy being there and bailing them out. And people are used to Billy being there and supporting them. People are used to Billy being there and being a shoulder to lean on. And I had to become very selective on what I was going to pick up. And so when I say don't pick up what's not yours, I don't mean just totally focus on yourself and only do stuff that's for you. But really, I guess I could have said be selective about what you pick up that is not yours. Um, we are our capability to manage stress is not infinite. It is very finite. There is only so much in which we can put on ourselves before we ourselves break. No matter how strong you think you have to be, no matter how strong you think you are, at some point we all have a breaking point. And so what I've learned to do now is to intentionally not pick up those loads that are not mine. And I was having a conversation with a friend, with someone I knew or know, a couple weeks back, and we were talking about their relationship in their childhood and how they were in a household with a single parent. Their other parent was kind of absent, and then when that parent became available and they were out doing things with them, their other parent said, "Hey, when you go to this person's house, you make sure you get all the money that you can because they didn't give you money when you were a child." And I started thinking about how we place these unrealistic roles on children and people in general, but children in this particular case. And so I started thinking about all the times I've heard where, like, if a father is absent in a household, they go to the oldest son and they say, "Hey, you're the man of the house now." That's a lot of pressure to be the man of a house as a child. It'd be no different than if a mother wasn't in a household and they went to the oldest daughter and said, "You're the woman of the house now." That's a lot of pressure to be a child and have to be the mother and have to be the nurturer and have to be the caretaker. That's a lot of pressure to put on somebody. And so it doesn't surprise me that we create this dynamic very early in some situations. We create this dynamic very early in the lives of our children when we put these pressures on them to pick up a torch that is not even for them to carry. And so imagine if you were carrying a rock, let's say just a rock, just a stone, maybe like a 3-pound stone. And somebody said, "Hey, you got to hold this stone." I got to go like this because my camera, "You got to hold this stone out like this indefinitely." Well, if I pick up that stone at 7, at 10, at 15, and I'm holding my arm out like this, before I get to 18, my arm is going to definitely fail. But we anticipate, or we assume, because of that, well, I was told I got to hold this stone out, so I got to grit and bear it. I got to get stronger. I got to get better. And we one of my favorite words that I created, we blame-agize other people. But in essence, we're blaming other people because we are failing. Like, "Oh man, I failed because you gave me this stone." Well, you didn't fail because they gave you the stone. You failed because you decided to hold the stone when it was never for you to hold. That's where our failure takes place, in picking up those things and holding those things and carrying those things, whether it's traumas, habits, behaviors, whatever. We carry those things with us throughout our lives, sometime all the way through adulthood until death. We'll carry those things, and they're not really for us to carry. So tool number 3 is really about only carrying your stuff and then being selective. I like what you said, Brian. Boundaries equal underutilized. Yeah, it equals being underutilized. If I have a boundary, you might think I'm being underutilized as a resource for you, but for me, I have a boundary because I need to have capacity. That's what I think really the boundaries come to, and picking up what's not yours. It limits your capacity, or I don't want to say limits, it deplenishes your capacity. And so don't pick up what is not yours is really about having the capacity to not only manage all the things that life is going to throw at you personally, but to even have that capacity to be able to help others when it comes time for their need. and you want to provide that help. That help. So that's tool number 3 in a nutshell. Really don't pick up what's not yours, because you have your own stuff that you got to deal with, and then be selective about the other things that you deal with, because the last thing you want is to either and this is not the worst of the two, not have the capacity to help somebody that you truly love and care about and want to help, or B, not have the capacity to handle your own life situations as they arise. So that's what I got for you guys tonight. Let's go really quickly over the tools for avoiding burnout. Tool number 1 is avoid the cascading effect. Don't allow the work to pile up. The more you allow the work to pile up, the more work you're going to have to do. So don't allow that work to pile up. Manage it to, as quickly as you possibly can, quickly and effectively as you possibly can. Tool number 2 is recharge periodically. It is okay to take breaks. It actually makes you better. It makes you more efficient. It makes you more aware and alert. So when your body or your mind or your emotions are telling you you need a break, it is okay to take a break. The only tool or the only caveat to taking that break is you have to have a commitment to coming back and doing the work. The work does not do itself. In fact, if you leave the work undone, the work will undo itself, but for some reason it won't do itself. That's very fascinating. And then tool number 3 is don't pick up what is not yours, or be selective about what you pick up that is not yours. You are responsible for what you allow to be placed in your life or placed on your life. Be selective about what you're willing to take, so that you have that capacity to handle the things that are coming up in your life and the things that you want to be selective about addressing in others, in the lives of others. So those are the 3 tools that I have for you tonight. As always with the Wednesday Word, I like to share a personal story, something that kind of got me thinking about this topic. And actually, I knew from the very beginning of season 2, or the very end of season 1, going into season 2, I wanted to address this topic because there was a comment. It was a casual economist, and I love that he engages with the content. But he put a comment. He was like, "Oh man, no Wednesday Word for weeks. That's brutal." And it's actually hard to not do the Wednesday Word. Like the first week, I was like, "Oh, I'm supposed to. Oh no, I don't have a Wednesday Word to do." And so I was like able to relax. And then the second week was like, "Oh, I don't have a Wednesday Word to do. I could kind of like spend time with my wife on the couch, chilling and cuddling and go to the gym." Like I had a different availability of my time. And by the third week, it was like, okay, I still don't have a Wednesday Word to do. I still don't have a Carolyn Michelle and Billy Rowe Live to do. So it gave me the ability to recharge. Again, taking that break, it gave me the ability to just not have to capture, I guess this is the best word, not having to capture all the ideas that come into my mind. It was like, hey, ideas still came, trust me, they were still there. And I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to write them down. I'm going to let those ideas just come and go, because the intentional energy that I have to focus on or have to create or engage with when these ideas are coming, to capture them and then articulate them, that is work. And so I was like, I'm taking a 3-week break. And in that 3-week break, I could tell you, it was actually fortunate that I took that 3-week break to recharge for myself, because then things came up in life, in my life and the lives of people that I love and care about. And I wasn't burnt out from doing Wednesday Words, or, oh man, well, I would love to be there. I would love to call, but I got a Wednesday Word this week, or I got to write down this topic, or I got to write down this idea. I actually created availability to be in spaces that I had no idea were coming, but life has a way of filling empty time. So that's really what got me thinking about this. And taking that week off, or those 3 weeks off for First Row between seasons, really brought me back with a renewed energy. Yeah, I understand, because the things that I do are live. I'm going to have some fumbles and some missteps, like clicking things. And look, life is too short to be caught up on the small, simple things. Eventually, I'll be back in rhythm. And then eventually what will end up happening is I will take another break, so that I have the opportunity to recharge and get my footing and become more grounded as I need to be. So that way, as I'm coming each week with inspirational content, I'm not pouring from an empty cup. So that's really where this came from. The stressful events that have taken place, that's life. It's going to happen. I'm managing those as I can, and trying to systematically take the highest priorities, take care of those. Even in the aspect of work, I've had to say, hey, look, when I'm off, I'm off. I'm not going to plug back in or jump back on at 11 o'clock at night to do some work. I just need to have that moment to take that break, recharge, and get back at it on the next day. So that's what this topic is about: avoiding burnout, how to avoid burnout, and what are some of the things or some of the tools that you can put in place for your life to help get you to a space where you don't find yourself on the burned out side of burned out. Other than that, that's really all I got for you guys today. As always, you can catch us now that we're back. Carolyn Michelle, I think, is not back until the Grind Define. I'm sorry, is not back until August 5th. But Carolyn, Michelle, and Billy Rowe Live will be the next time that you can catch us on First Row, or you can catch us on the Grind Define Facebook page. You'll see us live on Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then after that, you will see me on Wednesday. Next Wednesday will be a premiere because I am out of town. So I will pre-record the Wednesday word, but it will air live at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if I have the ability to, I will be in the live, but I cannot guarantee that. Again, part of not being burnt out. But this is another tool, bonus tool, I guess we could say, is planning. If you have planning, then you're not trying to juggle 17 plates at one time. You only have to deal with the one plate in your hand, and the other plates can take care of themselves. Or you delegate. I almost said outsource, but you delegate those responsibilities to others. Unfortunately and fortunately, I currently don't have anybody for the Wednesday word to take that space. So I will pre-record and plan and have that ready to go for you guys for next Wednesday. So casual, if you're watching or if you're watching via the replay, don't worry, the content will be there on Wednesday for you to engage with. But other than that, that's all we have for you right now. As always, you can find me and connect with me on social media. That's Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, anything at firstrow.com. You can find me on Twitter, but I'm not really on Twitter that frequently. So First Row on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube are the best places to find me. And also, if you have not done so already, I cannot stress to you enough, get your copy of this book. There have been so many conversations that I've been able to have with people who have completed this book now that have been delightful to have. And they've been conversations in which we're able to talk about the content specifically as it spoke to them versus as it was written. There's plenty of people that I talk to who still haven't read the book. And it's funny, as I have these conversations, now I'm to the place where I'm like, you really need to read this book. You really need to read this book. You really need to read this book. Part of the reason of writing the book, again, was that planning aspect and avoiding burnout. Instead of trying to have the same conversation with a million people, I'd rather get the book out to a million people who can have that one-on-one feel of a conversation as they read the book, and then start having dialogue with other people within their circles because of the content. So if you have not done so already, go over to firstrow.com, get your copy of the book and the journal book and the journal combo, because this is almost the equivalent of a college course, I would say, in going through this book. But other than that, that's all that I have for you guys this evening. Thank you guys for rocking with me. Thank you guys for coming back with me live as I come back for season 2 of the Wednesday Word, season 2 of First Row content. I appreciate you guys rocking with me. As always, if you like this video, share it. If you share it, like it. I love engaging with you in the live chat, and I love engaging with you in the comments if you're watching via the replay for up to the first 7 days, because after that, we have another show that comes up and we're on to the next show. But until the next time, I thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for rocking with the First Row. One love, peace, and God bless. Thanks for rocking with us.